Okay, today we're going to talk about the problem that we had the other day. It's essentially an issue with the stepper. It's a 0.9 degree of step. It just came yesterday, but there's a problem with it that I have to show you that we're going to have to fix. So if you can see, the cabling right here is not connected to a DuPont connector or a connector period. So we're going to fix that. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Let me grab some of the stuff I got here for it. So I've got a little connector that I ordered separately that I'll put together. So in order to do that, we have to do it. It's not going to be color to color like it says. It's actually going to be slightly different. So I'll point that out in a second. I just have to find the tools for it. So essentially it's shrink wrap I'm looking for. So this might take a second because I don't know where I put it. Here it is. So essentially we're going to have shrink wrap connectors on it. And then we're going to connect it together. But before we do that, we want to test it. So it's the smallest size first. So I don't know if you can see all these, but these will shrink on. I'll use a lighter to do it quickly, but it's not that difficult to do. So what I need to find is a LED so we can test it, because I always do this wrong. But we'll use the other one as an example so you can see what's going on. So we have this connector over here, and we're going to stick these in here on the first two, and then we're going to move this. Now it's not lighting up, so that's because the connector is not fully in. So there we go. So it works. So on this side we'll do the same just to make sure that it's the same, and it is. So on this cable you can't really tell because it's actually cabled off the motor. So we're going to have to actually build it. So I'm going to have to strip these wires. So I'm going to have to get a wire stripper. Let me just see if I've got one nearby. This might take a second because I sometimes move the tools to interesting places. So it might be in the other room. So far I don't see it, so it probably is in the other room in the toolbox, which is usually where I put my tools, which is an odd thing to say. So give me a second to grab that. Okay, I found them. So this is the wire stripper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this and strip the wire. So I'm going to go with the second one, but I'm going to do it a little bit longer than normal, like that. I'm going to do the other wires the same, and then we're going to judge what they are. And it's been a while since I've done this, so this is going to be kind of interesting. Let's see if I can remember how to do it correctly. But there's another way to do it off the data sheet, but I really don't like using the data sheet when I don't have to. But they're all stripped. Make sure this gets off the board. Blow on the board to make sure there's nothing on it. So there we go. So I'm going to do the light colors on the outsides the same, and then the inner ones I'm going to reverse because I think that's how it works. It's been forever, so I'm going to have to strip these as well because they're not long enough to attach them. So there we go. Shouldn't really do this over your board because you've already seen me blow up a board once before. So I think there's one left. Yeah, the blue one. Nope, not the blue one, the red one. There we go. So those are all stripped. So what we're going to do now is just clean up a little so that we don't have everything lying everywhere. Put this off to the side. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the outside wires as if they match. And then I'm going to do one of the inside wires reversed. So off here I'm going to do the black to the where the blue would be. So I'm just going to tie this together a little bit, just so we have a good connection, and then I'll pull it apart and do it again. So I'm going to grab the black one, and I'm going to grab the blue one over here, and hopefully this won't be too much of a mess. And I'm going to do black to blue. So I'm going to turn those just a little bit. I'm going to take this and I'm going to tie it together. This might give us 50% of the actual issue. So now that that's tied together, we're going to take this and we're going to test the actual wires. But because of the way I wired this, it's actually wrong. You can see that black is on the third one over. So I'm actually going to tie the red one in for now, so that we can do one side. For some reason, oh, there it goes. Looked like YouTube was running a little bit behind. So essentially, for those that are just joining us, we're testing the construction of a motor with a DuPont connector because it arrived without one. And this is the 0.9 degree of step. We're going to test the thing from either Friday, I think it was. So that works. So red and black go together, and then green with blue to the black will go to the other one. So now that we know that, we're going to pull this apart, straighten these up, hopefully not over our board. I'll shake the board out after this just to be safe. We're going to take this shrink wrap and we're going to slide it on here, hopefully. And I'm just showing you how to splice wires. That's all I'm really doing. So it's going to go in through here, slide it up here, and then we're going to grab the blue wire, which was the one we were working with, and we're going to do a 90-degree turn on this one and a 90-degree turn on this one and just wrap them around each other. Just make sure it's nice and tight, and then do the same over here. And then we're going to pull the shrink wrap over it. And then we'll shrink this in a few minutes. So that's the first one. Now we're going to do red to red. So we're going to pull this apart. We're going to clean up the wires as best we can. Do the same over here. And then we're going to slide this back over again. Might be out of focus on your side, so sorry about that. So comes out the other side, grab the red. If you have questions, you can post them in the chat. I'll answer them in a second. This is catching up from Fridays. So 90 degrees, 90 degrees, and then just wrap them around each other. And for those that don't know, the motor arrived without wiring on it, so I'm showing how to wire it with the DuPont connector. So I'm going to slide this over the wires again. So that one's done. Now we're going to do green, and we're going to do blue and black last. So straighten out the wires, twist them. Then we're going to do the same for the green. Take the shrink wrap and place the wire inside it. Then slide that down. Then grab the other green wire. Now, you might want to make sure these are not tied up incorrectly. So I'm just moving that over. This is going to be a slight wiring mess, but that's okay. I'm trying to do it on the quick. Okay, so this is almost done, and then there's one more set of wires to tie together. So let's slide this over it. And then finally, we're going to do the blue and the black. Basically, the inner wires are backwards. So once you figure out half the problem, you can tie them together. So we'll take this, get the shrink wrap again. I know this looks slightly boring, but it's one of those things you have to do once in a while. And usually I forget how to do it, so I keep a LED nearby so I can test it. So you're basically doing 90-degree turns around itself to tie them together. This is allegedly the NASA way to do it, but you can also stitch them together, but I'm not going to go into that. And I'm making a mistake on this one, so this is going to be fun. always the last one that's hardest. So I'm going to spin that into place. Now I'm going to take out a lighter, and I'm basically going to heat and shrink it with the lighter. This is not the preferred method, an actual heat gun is, but I don't want to take out the heat gun just to do this because of the sound. So I'm just going to hit it with the lighter, and this just basically shrinks it into place. Then I'll do the other ones. And then finally this one. Also, it looks better with the heat gun, by the way. So that's done. Now let's test it to make sure. So the first two are okay. Now we'll take it and we'll test the next two. And that doesn't seem to work, so let's see if it's got a bad connection. There we go. So that's all set. So now the wiring for the 0.9 degree of step is done. I'm going to pick this board up and shake it off just in case I dropped anything on it. And place it back down. So the issue that we had the other day was the TMC 2225 or 2226 for UART. So we're gonna reinstall it for the X stepper and see if the noise situation has dropped. So I'll bring out the noise meter again because this was a bug that someone came across possibly. So let me work this out. And it's going to be the third jumper from the top because we've done this Friday. So if you want to see what I was doing Friday, you can check. So I'm going to push that down. This will connect per the coloring. So we'll put that in place. I'm going to have to reload the firmware, but I'm going to connect this up for now. Right here, and then I'm going to try and get the wiring out of the way without breaking it. There we go. And then I'll bring this over and I'll put a piece of tape on that so you can actually see it move. And then I promise I'll look at the chat. There we go. So to load this, we're actually going to use USB power initially. So I'm going to move the jumper off of direct power and move the jumper onto the USB power. If I can get the pins lined up, there we go. So let me bring the USB cable into this and I'll look at the chat now. Yeah, it's probably best to solder the wires then shrink wrap, but the whole point was just to show the way to test it first. Normally I don't solder, but other people do. It just locks it down good. And then other people will actually weave in wire to lock it into place, but I'm not that good, so I don't want to show it on camera. So let's go over to VS Code for a second. I may have to set it up, so give me a second here actually to check, and then I'll check on the chat. Actually, it's not set up yet, so let me clean this up. Apparently my car is malfunctioning. That's why it's taken me so long to get home after a long day at work. So let's see what we got here. Delete 2.0, and then I gotta unzip it again. And I'll bring up VS Code so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll put it where I can actually see it. There we go. And I have to readjust this too. There we go. So this is what we've got. We need to open a file, so we're going to go to Explorer. We're going to click on Open Folder. We're going to go to the Downloads folder, 2.0, 2.0 again, select folder. Inside here, we're going to set up the SKR very quickly, hopefully. So this is a SKR Turbo 1.4. So we're going to go to Marlin source core boards.h, search on SKR 1.4, and it's right here for the first one. The second one is Turbo. Note the chipset of LPC 1769. So let me just copy this again. And minimize core, source, go to configuration.h, search on motherboard, paste it over where the ramps is, change the serial port to -1. Then you're going to search on A4988. Hopefully not typing it over what you normally work on. You're going to remove the comment right here, and as you can see, there is no TMC 2226 or 2225. So we know that the TMC 2209 is UART, so we're going to use that as a substitute for the moment. Hopefully in the future they'll add it. It may be in bug fix already. So I'm going to paste it right there, and we can check it in bug fix in a second. I'm actually going to leave this alone for the moment and show you something in here. I've shown it before, but I like to show it over and over so I can reinforce the point. So I'm going to search on 800 to get us to the stepper, which is right here for the X stepper, and that's set to 16. So these are tied together. So if you do 160, that means that this has to be 32. If you do 320, that means that this has to be 64, and so on and so forth. That's the pattern in which they move. But to set up TMC, we first have to do a search on TMC debug, and we have to remove the comment first here. Then we have to do another search on it. Whoops, I gotta go back, don't I? And remove the comment here. Next, we want to set up sensorless homing, so we'll do a search on sensorless. And this is not the one we're looking for, it's up above. So we'll remove the comment. So we're all set there. We do need to change this to about 125, because that's what TMC is over here between 0 and 255. The other one is set for SPI by default. So now that that's set, sensorless homing should be set up. So we should be good there. So the next thing we want to do is set up our default environment. And here it's set for the default, so we're going to change it to LPC 1769. Then we'll do a clean, which is a little garbage can. And then we're going to do an upload and see if this works. And I'll check on the chat while that's going on. Wow, it's getting crowded in here. So that failed. So I did something wrong. So let's see what's going on. So let me make sure I don't have anything open. Looks like I might have something open. So I'm closing that for the second. And I'll try and do a rebuild again. If it fails the second time, then I got to troubleshoot it. But it looks like I may have had a software open that was causing an issue. So we can check on the actual folder. Let me see if I can find it here. So in this case, it is, I believe, this drive, unless I have two things hooked up. It could be this one as well. Yeah, so it's actually this one. Notice the time of the upload. So I'm going to go over to my desk in a second. I just want to cycle the camera and make sure that it doesn't click out while I'm talking. So on the workbench, the way that we're going to load this is we're going to power cycle it and bring it power again. Then we're going to set it up for power. And so I'm going to disable this for a second because I heard the beep for the computer. I have ferruled connectors here so I can do this safely, and I marked what's red for voltage. So this is ground. So I'm going to tighten this down. Then I'm going to do the same for voltage. If I'm getting it in there. There we go. And I'm going to tighten that down. So these are good and tight. Here's the power. I'm going to first move the jumper to direct power over here. Then I'm going to connect this so it won't be powered by USB. I'm going to then plug it in and hopefully we won't see sparks. Okay, it sounds good so far. So I'm going to go over to Pronterface in just a second. I just have to reopen it because I had it open for a second. And inside Pronterface, we're going to connect to it. Now I just recently opened it, so it probably might know the COM port. So it's either 21 or 13. Let's see what happens. It's not 21, so let's try 13. And that one worked. So I'm going to do an M122 to check the status. It says that it is okay. So we're going to try and move the stepper and see what happens. We're not doing sensorless homing actually because it's not on an actual rail, but as you can tell, it's moving silently. So there is a possibility that I don't know what the person's issue is, or it was on a different board and I forgot. But on this particular board, for the SKR 1.4, I don't see a sound issue. Let me pull out a actual sound dB reader just so we can check. I think it was 27 or 70 dB that we picked up. 65 was ambient noise. So I don't know if you can fully see that in frame, so I'll bring it up so you can see it better. And I'll probably have to tilt it so that it doesn't look washed out. So I'll hold it with my hand and move it on the other one. So I'm going to have to be quiet between this so you can see what happens. So here we go. I'm going to tilt it where I can see it. So it looks like it barely even pegs anything. I don't know if that's because it's not in a mechanical setup, but that's probably working really good. I'm actually impressed with the low noise level of these. They also, I guess, handle 2.8 for the current, but I'd have to look at the data sheet. But let's check on other questions because that was just me trying to catch up on what happened the other day. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of questions yet. So where's everybody from while I get a little sip of orange juice? Okay, well, seems awfully quiet today, but I hope that solves one person's problem. It might be that they have the TMC 2226 and my 2225s are not the same, but I don't know. Okay, let's see. What else haven't I covered in a while? Well, there's not much that I can cover today because I was just preparing for this tutorial, so you're going to have to give me some subject matter if you want to know something that you might be curious about. Best time is to speak up now so I know what you're talking about. Okay, well, if no one's got any questions today, I'll show you a way to check for questions that you can ask me if you're nervous about asking them out in public. So I maintain a Discord over here where people ask questions. There's about 225 people in here, maybe more. And there's various topics that a lot of people are well versed in. So if you've got a question, the best thing you can do is either ask here or you can ask on YouTube. And if you have suggested content you want to see, you can always go over to the YouTube requests and put something in here. I'm trying to work through these lists, so there may be some time lag between me addressing it. Some things I might not cover just due to the cost of doing it. But it's a good place to ask me a question. And then some people ask me in private chat, but I don't normally respond that often to that because apparently there's about 50 people trying to have a conversation with me, so I get a little lost. But in general chat, most people can answer your questions. If not, I can chime in. I'm awake most of the time, just maybe 6 hours of the day I'm not. But let me check on the chat room, see if there's any questions over here. Well, seems kind of quiet. But for those of you that have been tipping on PayPal and or Super Chats, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. It goes to bringing you more material to work with. And I'll see if I can actually find the TMC 2226 or 2226 and see if there's an issue with that, but it may be that it was on a different board, in which case that person will let me know. And I'll try and do a tutorial on this in the near future. I haven't had a chance to sit down and work with it, but I'm going to be updating some tutorials soon for the SKR 1.4. I'm probably going to redo my initial one because it's 2 years old and I've learned a little bit since then. So that may be helpful to someone that's new to working with this board. So if there's no more questions, I'll let you go early. I'll be back online on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So everyone take care, be safe, and I guess I'll catch up with you then.